You joined President Biden yesterday as he visited the Key Bridge collapse site. He also met with the families of the men killed just hours after the body of a third missing worker was recovered. He also reiterated his pledge to rebuild the bridge with federal money. Watch.
We're going to move heaven and earth to rebuild this bridge as rapidly as humanly possible. And we're going to do so with union labor and American steel.
What can you tell us about your conversation with the president yesterday, and where does the rebuilding effort stand at this point?
Thanks, Rev. And the first thing I can tell you is the president started where we all started, which is with the families. Understanding that there are families who are still very much mourning, and there's an entire state that's mourning right along with them. In fact, yesterday, when the discovery of the body of Maynard Sandoval was discovered and the family was notified, knowing that the closure and also the comfort that these families deserve, they're going to get. And the president was lockstep. The thing we also know about the president was he didn't need to be fully briefed on everything going on, because he's been involved with us every step of the way. I got my first phone call from the White House at 3 o'clock in the morning of the day of that tragedy, of the bridge collapse. And the White House has been with us every single step of the way ever since. The White House, the Department of Transportation. And so the president coming and getting boots on ground on what we're seeing in the level of tragedy and disaster that we have down here was important. But the reality is that the White House has been with us every step of the way ever since the bridge first came down.
Now, Baltimore was a favorite target of Donald Trump as president, yet he has been conspicuously absent and silent on the Key Bridge collapse, as many of his conservative allies blame the tragedy on terror, on migrants, on black leadership. What do you take from this silence coming from the presumptive Republican presidential nominee?
I take the fact that Baltimore, even though we just took a blow, that Baltimore stands more united and stronger than ever. You know, before the bridge came down, it is not and should not be lost on anybody that Baltimore is, in terms of homicides and violent crime rates, that we went 8 straight years with 300+ homicides in the city of Baltimore. Now, in the last year, our first year, Baltimore now has the lowest homicide rates that we have in nearly a decade. That Baltimore has the 8th fastest growing economy in this entire country. That Maryland's economy has finally started moving again. So it's very difficult to take stabs at a city or a state that all the data shows is actually on the move. That when I was first inaugurated, we were 43rd in the country in unemployment. Now, for the 5th straight month in a row, Maryland has amongst the lowest unemployment rates in the entire country. And what we've seen even since the bridge has fallen, we have watched a community not just rebound, but watch a community take care of each other. Democrats, Republicans, people who are in the state who understand that you cannot have a thriving state if the state's largest city is not thriving. And so we have united in such a powerful way. So for anybody who wants to come and use this as a moment to divide us or use this as a moment to separate us, I would give them very clear advice. Do not come here, because in the state of Maryland, we are unified and we are moving forward together, and we understand the importance of Baltimore in our larger regrowth.
Now, Republican hardliners in Congress issued a set of conditions yesterday they say must be met before they'll approve bridge funding, demanding the administration end its pause on approving natural gas export projects and forcing the Port of Baltimore to exhaust federal funds already available before supplemental money can be considered. Your reaction to that, Governor?
My reaction is just look at what the state of Maryland is doing. If you look at our delegation, and our delegation is both Democrats and Republicans, our delegation consists of people from Jamie Raskin and Kweisi Mfume to Andy Harris. And you know we all have in common? We all are very unified on the idea that this has got to be funded and the federal government has got to do its part. All very united and lined up with exactly what the President of the United States said yesterday. If you look at our General Assembly, where we've introduced something called the Ports Act, which making sure that we can take care of our workers in this time of need. We've personally introduced legislation that makes sure we're providing scholarships to the children of the workers, that we're providing additional flexibility to my cabinet and my departments to know that we can have a chance to react even after our legislative session is complete. What do we know about the Port Act is that right now it is on pace to pass bipartisan. So the thing that we want for Congress to remember is Maryland is leading the way. Maryland is showing what does it mean to actually have a direct focus and a bipartisan focus on meeting people where they are, addressing a measurement of human need, and not allowing politics to get in the way of that. The president has been very clear and full-throated, and we applaud the fact that the president has continued to lead on the role that the federal government needs to play in not just the reopening of the port, but the rebuilding of the bridge. And we're just hopeful that Congress can actually follow that and understand that this is not a catastrophe, an economic and human catastrophe for Maryland. It's an economic and human catastrophe for this country.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.